Welcome to the creative side of things,
where we empower and inspire business owners and entrepreneurs to tap into their inner creative.
From standing out in saturated markets
to debunking and challenging the status quo.
We'll learn firsthand from actual small business owners how they've applied creativity, imagination, and common sense to grow their businesses. I'm Javier, Chief Creator and Founder of High Ground Creative.
And I'm Megan, Founder and CEO of Cheek & Co. Clothing.
I'm Gen X and her dad.
I'm Gen Z and his favorite daughter.
Oh, that's debatable.
Well, it's not up for debate. Together we are creative thinkers,
design experts,
branding gurus,
imagination igniters,
and coffee addicts. Keep listening and we'll prove it to you.
Hey, you might learn something.
Imagine that.
Ready?
Let's get creative.
Hey, people. We are back.
Are we recording?
We are recording.
Great.
I believe we're recording.
Did you record the big one? Probably not. Okay.
Folks, we keep telling you this is real time. We don't mess around. We let it flow. And the only edits we do is showing the shots here. We don't cut. So
no, we don't.
It is fluid. It is organic.
And it always will be, no matter what.
Exactly.
But I'm Megan Santana, and this is...
Mi nombre es Javier Santana. I am her father. I am her
Mi
papi.
padre.
Her padre.
And this is the Creative Side of Things podcast. Welcome. We are here to empower and inspire business owners and creatives to tap into your inner creative.
Because everybody is creative, people. So let's get creative.
Let's freaking
Not everybody is artistic, but
yeah,
everybody's creative.
Yeah, not everyone is artistic, but you're creative no matter what.
You know, yeah, go ahead.
Today's a really cool topic, and I feel like it's one that you guys have been asking for a while because you want us to disagree. You just want us to argue. And we did a little bit in the social media episode, but for the most part, God forbid, we get along.
We do. You know.
I like my dad. Sorry. I love you. But today we might disagree. We'll see.
We'll see what happens. I think you already know. So if you're watching this, what the topic is, but it's basically old school versus new school. So
which one am I?
I don't know. But what I want to do.
I'm an old school at heart for sure.
You are. You're an old soul, but you still have these. There's definitely generational differences between you and I. I mean, it's obvious. That's where we're banking on this podcast. Podcast, is
that's a big reason we started it.
It is. You have your point of views. You're a business owner. You're a female lady.
Lady gal.
And
Leo.
Gen Z, almost millennial. You're right there within that year.
What's your sign again? Because I said I'm a lady Leo.
I'm a Sagittarius.
Okay, good. I always forget.
One of the things we're both, if you're Harry Potter people, we're both Ravenclaws.
Yes, we are.
And those are the creatives.
Yeah.
And that's us. By the way, the Sorting Hat put me in Ravenclaw. It wasn't someplace.
It's legit.
It wasn't like Harry Potter saying, not Slytherin, it's not Slytherin. Okay,
I know. I get it.
I didn't ask to be there. We were put there.
Yeah, we were put there.
Weird. I don't think we're anything else except Ravenclaws. If you're there,
no, it really fits like the creative.
Right. So old school versus new school. How they, our generations influence our perspectives. In marketing and how we do business, there's, because the point of reference is different. I'm a Gen X. I was born in a world in the last generation before the internet hit in. I've been in this space in marketing and advertising for over 30 years. I remember when things that are old school now were the real thing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when you were in like graphics for college, didn't you have to literally draw them?
Yes, we did not have computers integrated into the curriculum. When I went to college for business art, commercial art was my major. When I graduated, all of a sudden are like, Macs started being used in graphic, and then it changed to graphic design. And people were asking me, "Do you know Quark Express?" Which doesn't even exist anymore. Now it's Adobe InDesign.
You're like,
and
I was
Photoshop.
literally going to draw your logo.
I literally just wasted what I got out of my college degree, aside from playing a lot of innings of baseball, because I played baseball in college. I learned how to fold my laundry, and I made some really good relish sandwiches because I was broke.
Did you scan them then? If you were drawing a logo, like if you're how did they get to a piece of paper?
At the time there was called something. It was called freehand, and now it's Adobe Illustrator.
Okay.
It's a vector, but that was the whole thing.
That was
Before,
it.
you would take picture of it and use that photo into a negative and use it
Oh
into
my
that.
gosh,
So
that's crazy.
So again, so the point here is that there's things that are very different that I need to, for me, Javier, to stay relevant in this industry. I have
And you do well
to
at staying
adapt
relevant.
and grow and do that. So I bring a point of view, but understanding that there's new ways of doing things that in some cases are better, in some cases they're not, but you think they are, and
You trying to argue? He gonna lose.
so
you just Puerto Rican. I got the Italian.
that's right. That's your mom is Italian. You have that little.
I'm gonna
spice in there.
destroy you.
Look, we're gonna get going here, but your Abu used to say to me,
My grandmother.
You know, the Bible says, "Be the salt of the earth," but she says, "Why be salty if it can be spicy?"
We're that Adobe.
We're the adobo.
We were talking about
It's Adobe
graphics. I
Photoshop.
thought, yeah.
Adobo.
Okay, cool.
So if you don't know, adobo is seasoning powder.
I said Adobe.
So what we're wanted to do to just get us on track here, because we've laid a foundation. It might be a little messy, but the fact is that Meghan does some things instinctively
That I have to teach him.
and things that I have to learn because they don't come instinctively, and things can become instincts. But yes, we see the differences. We always end up in the same place. Sometimes we take a different route. So our goal is to show different things and mechanisms in business that you out there are very familiar with, but then we're going to cite some examples, old school way versus new school way.
If it's still relevant,
Right.
if we should cancel it.
Right, and then we find common ground and
Yeah.
see where we can land.
I'm
there.
excited. Let's do it.
This one has a little bit of an outline because we wanted to make sure we hit some things home and drove them home, so then you have something to take away with you, and hopefully you have a few things that you can grab and apply today.
So get your notebooks.
Get your notebooks, get your pads, and then we can start there. So let's start with advertising channels and methods. Now, the word advertising in itself is old school.
I was like, what? Advertising? Let me go get my postcard.
Oh my gosh, here we go. All right, it's ready to go.
Have you ever sent a postcard while on vacation?
Come on, man. I used to when you in the olden days before FaceTime. You would basically you're on vacation, and then you would write a postcard to Grandma and Grandpa. Hi from us in Disney World. Here's the funny thing about this: normally when
by the time they get it, you're done your vacation.
No, we beat them back home.
Yeah.
And then they got it like 5 days later.
If someone sent me a postcard on vacation, I'd be like, what am I supposed to do with this? Are you bragging? Like, get off your high horse.
Come on. No. But see, now handwritten stuff. You know this. See, now it's just not even in the island. We're already there. When you handwrite something to your customers, that's old handwriting. But that's old school. But that's okay. Mm-hmm. Embrace the old school.
I'm not going to send a postcard.
It's caring.
On vacation. That's weird.
All right. That's a good point. I don't know what the heck we were doing, but that was the only option back then. That's how you showed love. That I'm thinking, you know what I think
I'm thinking about you while I'm on vacation and you're at work.
Look at the picture or where you're not.
Yeah, it's so weird. Okay, anyway.
Okay, so advertising channels, old school. So traditional advertising channels like print, radio, television, billboards.
Billboards, still everywhere.
And direct mail. Those are old school things. A lot of these are applied. So new school things that are right now are things like channels, social media, search engines,
email marketing,
influencer marketing too.
I do that.
Right. So the common ground. Before we go in there, what things old school, you new school girl,
that I still use or that I don't like?
Either way, whatever comes.
So I have done a radio.
We know you don't do postcards.
No, I put in a insert into my packaging. Does that count as a postcard?
It does. You don't have to put a stamp on it.
Yeah. So I have done a radio commercial. It was fun, cool experience.
Yeah, right.
I guess it helped. I don't know. I've never wanted to buy something because I heard it on the radio. So that's
okay.
I'm not really. I like.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good one.
I use Spotify. I don't use the radio.
Okay.
I got that Bluetooth in my car.
You know what's really funny?
You know what I do is I listen to the creative side of things.
That's what you should do on your way to work.
So radio's like hit or miss with me when it comes to ads.
Okay. So okay.
Television always relevant in my opinion.
So let's stop at radio. I'm pretty much there with you, even though I'm old school. Here's a reason why. Every morning I take your sister, Grace, who's 13, to school. She doesn't say much in the morning. So we all? So for a while, I was doing dad jokes, and she got tired of that, so she started turning on the radio. One of the funniest things about it, it's about a 15-minute drive to her school. She spends 13 and a half of those minutes trying to find a song.
The radio doesn't know. It's like, here's today's top hits, and plays freaking Ed Sheeran from 5 years ago. And I'm like, how is this?
This is a problem. And look, me being in marketing, we want people to hear the darn commercials, but nobody's paying attention because they're switching the darn thing
that's
for
true.
the other
Most
thing.
people will switch the channel when it goes to the commercial.
One of the things, if I may find, if you want to spend money on radio, here's my point of view. And I own a advertising, marketing, communications agency. I always say this, don't go there first. Spend your money. If you're going to spend money on something, go for low-hanging fruit. Things like our more new school, online, boosting posts, ads.
Boost.
Okay. So let's say you have that and I want to throw some money in. Make sure it's hyper local. So that you can talk to your radio station about where your ads and the frequency. So you don't want your ad to be playing at 2 a.m. Nobody's listening anyway.
That's true.
So one of the things I have a few clients that are doing radio, actually 2. And one of the things I said, if you can align yourself with the weather or the traffic, then they play their weather and their traffic at the same time every single day. So if people commute to work and they're playing that station, it's like, the traffic report is sponsored by High Ground Creative. Thank you very much. Or today's weather report is sponsored by Chicken Co. Clothing. Chicken Co. Clothing. Check it out. So then people already they're not tuning out those things because they want to know what the weather is. And, is there a traffic jam on my way to work? So then they're going to listen to that. They're going to tune out.
I love a good jingle.
Yeah,
I appreciate car dealership commercials. They crack me up on the radio. They're always good. He's my brother Tim. He's my brother Bob. And we have it. Or like Sunday. Like we love a jingle. We love a Stanley Steamer gets your carpet cleaner.
Right.
So I think jingles are still relevant.
They're catchy.
They're
sticky.
fun.
They're very sticky.
They are.
No, I'm going to make also another argument. This is one for radio, not too far leaning towards radio, but not everybody has a 13-year-old daughter changing the channels or the stations while you're driving.
Some people are keeping it at
and there's
one
nobody
station.
there, right? So then at the same time, they're not sitting there because they're trying to drive. Now, on my steering wheel, I do have a button that I can change.
I think the issue would be like if you hear that ad and you are interested, but you're driving, then you have to hope you remember by the time you're parked.
Exactly. So this is, I hear you. I'm actually aligning with you on the radio. I'm not saying radio is dead. It isn't. But there's so many other options taking our attention. And that if you have a limited amount of money to spend on that, how about you spend it on something else first before you go?
You're going to see quick results. Billboards are funny. I like billboards.
Yeah, billboards are cool.
They can be really funny.
Right. They're called what I call top of the funnel things. It's not something I made up, but it's not a lead generation. Now,
do you feel like it's like when you have money to burn, like why not have a billboard?
You have your baseline, you have your things already going, add that on top of that. So imagine if they're seeing your ads on the news feed, even organic stuff you're doing, and they're seeing your posts, and now they're remembering. Then they drive by the same place and they see that it's the same message that you're already communicating online. Then it adds a layer, another touch point to your message. What I would do if I had a billboard now, it would not just be, hey, this is my company, is have a call to action, have a specific message, a question, right? Is this you? And then maybe have a QR code, because the QR codes now work from long distances. In the first iteration of QR codes, that wasn't the case. That was a problem.
So if some parents driving their kids, they can pull out their...
Snap it on the red light and get it there. So I always make sure, I've done this a few times with clients, is there a red light? There's some of them that are not when you're driving 60. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're slowing down, there's some close to stopping
And you don't have to think big like Times Square. Like your local small town billboards, like there's literally one on my way to my house, and I live like on a farm.
And you drive by
and
every
if you're a
single
storefront, like that could be super beneficial so that people know, like, hey, on like you'll see Dunkin' Donuts, it'll be like on your next right, get an iced coffee, and it's like a direction. That's a really good investment if you're a small town.
I'm so glad you just thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Because they are effective. You just have to
leverage. I like billboards.
So that's good. So we have
sometimes there's really sad billboards about like sickness.
Yeah,
and
because
I'm like, okay, thanks.
A lot of the time, state agencies kind of
or like insurance is a big one in real estate.
Right. Around here, Wawa has a lot of those, and they're not, they because there's a lot of Wawas. If you don't know Wawa, they're kind of like 7-Eleven.
But the common ground with like the advertising is, you're understanding your target audience and you're just selecting what works for you and what's effective. And it's okay to try things out. I mean, I literally tried radio. Like I had an opportunity and I did it. And it was a really cool experience to go in and record.
It is. You said something really poignant. I just want to call it out. Is you tried it out. If you have money or resources to be able to try things out, the old adage in marketing is you test small, and then what works you exploit and do more of.
I think I have a loophole for radio is sponsoring a podcast, because people listen to podcasts a lot, and you're not going to change your podcast episode.
Oh, so we could.
So like sometimes they cut to break. It's about HelloFresh. Here's a coupon, whatever. Right. I think that's always a really good investment for people to sponsor a podcast. Let us know if you want. Yeah. Starbucks. You want to sponsor the creative side of things? Yeah.
If anybody wants to sponsor us, give us a call or.
But I think that's a kind of a loophole, because it's not radio, but like no one's going to click away because they have to finish their episode.
Exactly. No, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Okay, so I think we're in a good place with advertising channels and methods. We're going to shift to strategy, specifically marketing strategy. We have old school ways, we have new school ways. Me being the old school guy, I'm going to share it to you. Doesn't mean I'm doing these anymore.
Some of them I am.
I'm explaining, people, okay?
I'll let you know if he is, because I know everything.
Exactly. I'm not disagreeing with that. Traditional advertising channels. So old school is very, very simple. Mass marketing and broad targeting. It's basically casting a wide net. There was no way in the old days to pinpoint an individual with a specific interest anywhere. So all you did is have a big megahorn. We are here, high ground creative, marketing,
or like door-to-door salesman.
No, well, this is
or is this different?
No. This is mass marketing is just getting a lot of people in one message.
Oh, okay.
So that's more one-to-one. This is more you cast. If you think about fishing and you want a lot of fish, you cast a huge net, right? If you ever go fly fishing is just one little area, and then hopefully there's fish there and have them come there. So the only way in the old school, because of technology, we could not reach large amounts of people and say, I want homeowners with this disposable income in this area during this time. So we had to do a broad stroke and just cast a wide net, and that's broad targeting. Now, with new school, it's very personal. Mm-hmm. You can, and then you can gather information and you learn their behaviors. And I know this is not a conversation about privacy, but that's another conversation. But when you sign up for Facebook, when you sign up for Instagram, they ask you questions, and you have your interests, and you have your geolocation with your phone.
And you have your algorithm based on what you're liking and not liking.
Yeah, and those data points are used by marketing individuals not to find you, but to find people like you. So then when we communicate our message, we know it's received by the right person at the right time, because that's who our target audience is. So another way of saying this is it's data driven. So we gather data and we find niches. So Megan, for example, she sells groovy clothes to the modern hippie for ladies, right? Mm-hmm. So she is not going, if she has, she can find channels within digital media that can pinpoint that specific person and communicate the message, so it's not wasted into something else. We couldn't do that in old style advertising.
Would a vendor show count as mass marketing because it's in person?
No, because what happens is the show itself has an itch.
Yeah, you're right.
So if you go to the Doobie show,
yeah, 420 was yesterday,
which you go to, then the Doobie people are going to be there, and if the Doobie people want to buy your clothes, they're going to do that. So it is somewhat so. So common ground is the importance of connecting with your audience. We always want to connect with them, so you have to know who your audience is, and so then you can create a message. And I always say this: these platforms, digitally or even anything, are a conduit to an audience. If you know who your audience is and your market is, then you can go to them. If you do a billboard now, it's the same people driving by, so you can't know who that person is. You're hoping they catch.
Yeah, makes sense. That's pretty straightforward for that one.
Right. And I know I'm doing a lot of the speaking here, but I do.
Well, I'm learning right now. I didn't go to college for marketing. So
well, it says here, old school, not Megan.
Okay. That's here. That's why I'm quiet, because I'm just learning.
By the way, just to correct, I did go to college, but my degree is
useless.
1983. Everything I have done in the last 30 plus years has been from.
And you're welcome. I didn't give you any loans. So
the School of Hard Knocks. That's the best goal. Yeah, thank you, by the way, for that. No student loans for Megan.
Nope.
Thank you. Okay, so number 4. So communication and customer engagement. How do we communicate to them, and how do we connect and engage with them? So old school, go ahead.
Yeah, old school is going to be face-to-face communication and phone calls and formal written correspondence.
Right, postcards.
Postcards.
Formal communication, phone calls. So it would be like telemarketers. Right now people are tuned out of that, but there was a time when we didn't have these. Mm-hmm. Right, so you had your phone. It was a direct line. You might have two-way calling. So you would pick up the phone because you don't know who it was. So you just pick it up, and then
now I have an app that tells me this is a spam risk, and then I don't even answer.
Right. Yeah. I the other day I was like, I don't know any spam risk. I don't know Mr. Risk. I don't know.
Who's Mr. Spam?
Who's Spam Risk? I don't know his name. Okay, so that's old school communication. So new way is social media engagement, right? There is
instant messaging.
Instant messaging, right? You can
even do live chat on your website now, like. Where you can download an app, and then if someone has a question, I can get a ping on my phone and help them in the moment.
It's immediate.
I've done that for a little bit. I can't handle anymore.
No,
I'm like, just email me.
Just send me an email.
It can't be that much of an emergency for address.
So you now are able to engage in conversations real time and engage your customers for specific things if you choose. So there's the technologies there. So instead of being passive, is very direct.
Video conferencing, Zoom is
stuff, right?
Huge because of after COVID, and it stuck. Like a lot of my fiance's meetings are still on Zoom, even though they can meet in person.
Right. So that's a very
huge one.
The common ground I think there is basically in either way. The goal is to build relationships and build connection with your customers, because if you connect, then you build trust. If they trust you, they will buy from you.
And unfortunately, I'm still getting phone calls, so hopefully that dies out at some point.
Yeah, so actually, that's one thing I'm going to pick at. And I'm not your generation, that's this. I'm not. You know that I'm not like usually like this. But in this case, a lot of folks in the millennials, especially in Gen Z, go into a field position the time the phone rings. And this is not a making fun of thing. It's a reality. I see that. I know I'm generalizing, but it's a general rule. I have had better conversations with individuals in that age group over text than I have over the phone. They just clam up. Mm-hmm.
So a common ground for that would be, I'm totally good with a phone call if we schedule it.
Okay.
When people just randomly assume I'm available, which is kind of rude because I do have a job.
No, I think so.
So they're like, are you ready right now to talk? I just think there's like a respect to saying, hey, can we schedule a call next week? And then I'm all for it.
I agree
and I can mentally prepare.
100% of that. I don't like the fact if a salesperson walks into my office without me knowing about it, and they think it is rude from our opinion. I know you and I agree with this. We feel that person does not have respect for our time because they impose themselves on us. Mm-hmm. There's times when I text somebody and say, can you talk right now? Mm-hmm. And then, I can't. Okay, how about we talk at 3? Okay, then we schedule it, and then we still have the conversation. So, okay, and you're defending that. I believe that if they know that there's a phone call, then you can prepare for it, and then you don't be taking.
And if you're listening and have tweens and teens, just kind of get them out of their comfort zone a little bit. Maybe have them talk to a family member on the phone more, order their Chick-fil-A. Just kind of, it's easy to raise kids who are scared to be on the phone or like talk to an adult, and it's not their fault. They weren't put in those situations to do that.
Look, I'm going to defend that too, because I remember being in my teens and even younger, and we were living in Virginia, but our family was in Puerto Rico, and this is what was going on in Spanish. My mom is talking to, and no one's like, okay, here, talk to your grandmother.
Yeah, to just give you the phone.
And it's like, I'm trying in the middle of playing Parcheesi.
Yeah, I mean, I was your receptionist at 18, 19,
yeah, exactly.
I was like having to talk to these older men about pole buildings, and it was terrifying. No, for sure. But it got me out of my comfort zone.
But you already kind of knew that, right? But this is one thing I've done recently. I mean, especially with your youngest sister. The other day, I did this. I was talking
the youngest?
To your youngest sister, to Grace. I was basically talking to your grandmother, my mom, and I know she would have been okay, but I said, I'm going to talk to your grandmother. At some point, I'm going to give her a little warning. And I'm going to give that to you. So that's being compassionate to the, and even though this is in the home.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, kids are a bunch of softies. Like they just, just kind of give them a warning because
exactly.
Especially if it's a family member they don't talk to, it's like awkward.
So the common ground here is building relationships, regardless of old school, new school. That's never changed. I always say in the 30 plus years I've been in this business, what's been the same was the people are people. They have feelings. They want to be respected. So respect the people and try to connect with them.
Exactly. Respect. The phone calls are not dead. Face-to-faces are not dead. Just be respectful of people's boundaries and ask to set it up. Right. Like that's all. That's all
we're asking for, people. What we keep agreeing. It's really kind of scary.
Well, I thought we disagreed for a sec, but then we had common ground, man.
So let's jump to branding and storytelling. Back in the old school, the traditional brand storytelling was done through print and radio and television advertising, commercials basically. And yes, we still have those, but there's ways. Now you have to pay if you want a streaming channel, if you want to skip the ads, right? But if you think about it, you pay a subscription for a lot of these things, but they're very expensive. So advertising is important because it funds what you're seeing. It pays those actors. It helps with that stuff.
Or YouTubers.
So you have to be if you're making somebody sit to something, gosh, make it entertaining. Make it something that's memorable. Look, Super Bowl ads are a perfect example of you can create something that it's in line with that.
Did you see the Rick Roll one? Mm-mm. So you got, you got Rick rolled.
Oh yeah, yes.
It was literally someone paid God knows how much for this commercial. All it was a barcode.
It was a barcode.
And when you scan it, it's never gonna give you. Never gonna. And I don't even know what the brand was, unfortunately. But like, I just thought that was so funny. I just love stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. So what's interesting, Megan, is that the storytelling and it's connecting again. So we talked about storytelling before, and actually in another episode we did that. But print, radio, and television, that's the way it was before. We talked about radio.
And now it's just, live streaming, talking on Instagram stories. I mean...
Yeah, you can utilize that in real time to connect through social media, and that's a big one. Video is a big part of it. Yeah. Moving people connect with people. And then, so leverage video. The only way that we could do video before was with television. So then you would have 30 seconds between TV shows and little sports. And in there's the national TV commercials, and then there were some local spots that you can slide in there. And then since people weren't changing channels, there were only a few of those. And even so, there was no pausing, or fast forwarding. So then you kind of had to sit through those.
Yeah.
So the video in itself, the advertisement is still in effect. It's just how we deliver that piece of video instead of a commercial, do it in another way, in a way that you're going to have the captive audience. One of the things I always say is I don't like to be interrupted, meaning I don't like to be disrespected and force-fed something. If you're making me do something, it's a very, kind of frustrating as a consumer. So, we can deliver video in what's called pre-roll. And pre-roll means you can't skip it. So if you go to YouTube now, it's not immediately doesn't say that. Some of them are not like that, but those are only 15 seconds. They're not 30. Mm-hmm. So we can deliver those that way, and people are going to, we understand that people are not going to respond. It might not be a negative, but it just might ignore it. And so that's one thing that is just communicating that message. So you talked about Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels, and now we have TikTok, obviously,
and there's YouTube Shorts. Yeah,
right. So
these are and it's a new genre. It's vertical video,
short form. You can deliver stuff that people will actually sit there and sit through it. So you still have your message. You're just delivering your message in another way. Is there anything you have as far as the storytelling? You're a really good storyteller, Megan. I said this in another episode, the Disney one, and I want to say it here because somebody might not have heard that. You build an emotional connection to your customers, and that's a very important thing. People connect with Megan, and they really get to care about her. It's not a persona; it is you. Chica and Megan are the same person, and there's a lesson to be learned there, because when you leverage this and you're open and you're raw and you're real. And yes, you still align with your branding. You're still there. There's things that are there. It's all appropriate.
I'm like, hey guys, so I cried yesterday, but anyway, peace, peace sign.
Right. So,
but I'm a real person. I'm not a corporation. I'm not a robot. So storytelling doesn't have to be just video. It can be audio, like how we're talking to you guys. It can be a caption sharing the story behind why you're selling something. But I did want to address with old school, everything comes back around because a lot of people are buying flip phones.
Yep.
Because they hate how everyone has access to them, and they're switching back to flip phones.
Preach.
And people like my age and younger think it's like cool to have a flip phone because they never had one. I had one. I had a bunch of flip phones.
You had the Razor. I think
but
that
like
little Razor
people
one.
Who are like, I don't even know how old I am
like your
anymore.
sister, like Bella, didn't what's in that?
Yeah. So they're like, it's like cool to them. It's like nostalgic. Right. And then everyone's buying records. You can get records at Target.
Old digital cameras that are
I was going to say that. So people are liking the nostalgic video form and they're rebuying old like camcorders to give that effect. It's just crazy. So don't in other words, don't overthink. You're like, oh, it has to be HD. People are like going back to digital cameras and disposable cameras, and they're loving how it looks like on social media. It's just ironic.
If you create an experience, but not only one, a memorable one and connect with your audience, people are going to buy from you. The goal here is old school or new school. Get creative, see if that fits, and see how you can connect with that side.
Yeah.
If you do that, then you're going to be very successful, whether it's print, whether it's on a big billboard, whether it is on a video. Yes, if you are limited in resources, meaning not only money, but people to execute, then do the tried and true things that fit now, and then make those adjustments. Okay, so let's jump. We're almost there. There's
This one's a little nitty gritty, but it makes sense.
Right. So it's metrics and measurement. One of the things I always say is how do you know? You can't know where you're going unless you know where you are. You have to be able to measure and know how you're doing in order to make adjustments. You got to know your numbers, not only in your money, but also in how your metrics in how you're doing that. And I'm going to challenge this because this is a metric when you're building a business, Megan. And I know you don't adhere to this, but there's something called vanity metrics, and that is like and share, which are important, but those or comment, those are not always translated into customers. No. So if we are measuring, the ultimate measurement ultimately is, are your sales increasing? Are you
Yeah, I care about link clicks. I don't care if you double tap my picture.
Exactly.
Are you gonna buy it?
So the old school of measuring, the traditional was basically sales and frequency and reach. We couldn't measure in a billboard. All we knew was how many cars on average every day drove by that piece.
And I guess the billboard went up this day, and since then we've made this much. Is it increasing?
Yeah. So then how can we know if that sale came from that? You can always say, hey, where did you see us? And then you can ask, oh, I saw your billboard. Okay, well, you saw our billboard.
Yeah. Where did you hear about us?
Right. So frequency of something and your reach was more guessing more, and you bet on the more eyeballs then the bigger of a chance that you will be seen and they will act on that message and actually buy from you. But you can really measure.
New school. I mean, Shopify will literally tell me, this is how many people went to your website. This is how many people went as far as adding it to cart, but then they left. It'll be so detailed, and it's almost like a pressure now because we have so much information that it's like almost there's no excuse for failing because you have everything you need.
Yeah, it's in front of you.
But it's so much so
you're able to track every single behavior online with a customer. And what's important about that is you can make decisions based on real data instead of just anecdotal or just even gut feeling, which I think it's very important.
We love a gut feeling.
Totally. But you can then optimize your strategy in real time because you're seeing what's really happening and you can base your decisions on that. So I'm totally new school because the moment I was able to track things with analytics and things like that, it was as a marketer, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God. For the longest time, we just didn't know what we were getting. And you just had to hope that you get that, and you couldn't really measure it.
And even on Instagram, it'll tell you if your audience is more male or female. Because imagine if you're your clientele is supposed to be male directed and it says your audience is 80% female, you might need to like adjust what you're posting, or like in that case be like, okay, buy this for your boyfriend. Like, so you have to like, and you might either have to make a new Instagram or just completely change what you're doing if all your analytics aren't aligning with your ideal client.
Right. Well, that's really, you're on point there. Goodness, I'm actually I'm agreeing with Megan Santana.
I mean,
we have a few. Okay, don't go there. We don't have enough time to recover from that one. Okay, so the next one is collaboration and teamwork we put together. Before, and this is a little more in general as far as the way the world is. The world is smaller and continues to get smaller because we're able to send a message and have it be heard instantaneously, 5,000 miles away. Like you can be in California a few weeks ago, and then you can be at Disneyland, snap a picture, send it to me, and 2 seconds later, in the East Coast, I have it.
Not a postcard.
That is not.
No, you're the blue one. All I heard was cheering.
So, it's really important to understand. Back in the old school, there was you couldn't do that. So we didn't have Zoom. We didn't have these things. So it was a very, very structured thing when you communicate with people. When you have a conference call on the phone and you have the boss drove it and they asked questions. There was not an interaction.
Or those big, like, they look like turtle shells. And
it's
like a speaker.
Yeah, exactly. In a conference room. Or
a fax machine. I've never faxed anything.
And you have more in-person meetings. You had to, because that's the only way you can continue to kind of move things forward.
I prefer in-person meetings.
No, I do too. We're not now post-COVID. A lot of these things, there's actually now old school, new school, and post-COVID.
Yeah, it's like a time. It's like literally how I measure time.
Right, BC. You said
BC,
that.
BC.
That was something she came up. So the new school is you have remote collaboration, you have flexible teams. You can focus on a lot of things that you weren't able to do so. In my staff, we have at High Ground, there's 8 of us, and 2 of the team work remotely full time. We have one that lives 60 miles away, and we have another one that lives in North Carolina. And they're connected with us. They are online through our CRM. We chat. We have chat tools. We also set up Zoom meetings to have team conversations. The team communicates real time, so it's not an issue. Mm-hmm. My sister works at Cisco Systems, international company, and she works from home full time remote, and her team is in another state, and she has meetings with people in Europe every morning. So
now, tool wise, like I feel like people should know this if they don't. There's so many cool things like Trello, Evernote. Right. Like it goes into apps too. Like what's the more that you guys use to kind of communicate?
We use Basecamp to as a project management
just as
software.
Like suggestions for you guys if you're looking for systems to like better communicate with your team. Like there's so many cool apps out there. Right. Which is like another form of like new school.
And that's why I embrace obviously a lot of new school things, because at the end of the day, we want to connect and we want to be able to be productive. And these tools allow us to do that. We're not going to do this in this conversation, but in a future conversation, we're going to have a
new school.
But we're going to have I want to have an episode about AI in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But this is now changing the landscape again. So
I had paper versus digital. Mm-hmm. So I can send a contract to my photography client and they can digitally sign it before they even meet me, and pay me in full. Like it's so much easier. I don't have to meet someone in person to sign a contract now.
Right. No, that's great. One statement I want to say is that the value of effective communication, being effective in your teamwork and your communication, it drives your success in your business. How effectively you can communicate and how often. Whatever that is, if it's new school or old school, leverage it right so then you are able to grow. That's the key.
Yeah. A good, just something to take away is please realize, because it's easy for, my generation to be, oh, I'm used to it, cool. But it's so, we're living in the future. There's so much. We have access to so much. We can use so many things.
We can.
And, just the audacity to be like, oh, it's not working for, I'm failing. Okay, literally how? Because there's so much free information.
There is.
It's almost like there's no excuse anymore.
There's no excuse. I think it's more your drive and ambition.
Who's a small business, who's supposed to be a business owner and who's not, because
exactly.
Are you utilizing all this free tool.
Right. Work the problem. If you run into a challenge in your business and you don't know the solution, be with people around that can pour into you, that can help you guide. There is a technology. There is a solution. People have done it before you. You need to dig in and find out. Leverage old school things, new school things. It's not just marketing. It's just even in the way you operate your business. There is a way to do it. You don't have to throw money at the wall every time.
No, you really.
There's ways you can get creative.
My Shopify updated and it writes my captions for me now. For my descriptions for my product, I put in, and I can choose. Okay, so the tone I want is persuasive. I want funny tone, and it'll like make a little. I
love that.
Like metaphor for my kimono. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that
the audacity for me to be like, oh, I can't think of a caption when like that is available to me.
Leverage the tools that are available to you.
No more complaining, guys. You just got to use these tools to benefit you. There's so many.
There's so many. So we can combine those methods, and I think that hopefully you kind of got something out of this. We were all over the place in many ways. We had some structure, but I think the spirit of this, I expected this to be a clash, and actually became more of a
shocker. We didn't argue. That's what you wanted.
No, but I mean, I think that people have realized that now after all these episodes that, there is common ground always. And if you just have to have the heart and the intent of finding that common ground, whether it's old school, new school, Gen X, Gen Z, millennial, male, female, father, daughter, you can get along, you can find common ground, and you can figure out a way to solve problems. If you have that heart, if you have that intention, if you have that intent behind you, you're going to succeed. You have to take the step personally to do so.
Yeah.
So,
comment on our video, comment on our podcast of ways that you've either changed from old school to new school or used both. We'd love to hear. We might have missed like an old school or new school that we forgot about. So please let us know. But utilize both and go create something, new or old.
Yeah, go create something.